What's up, Cepicky?
Nothing, just another great week in the General Assembly.
I should, after visiting you in your office yesterday, I should be a little more formal with you. I didn't know you were this big of a deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, Representative Scott Cepicky joins us in studio.
Whatever.
What is going on? You've got a corner office.
Well, it also keeps you away from everybody else, too.
Well, that's true. I feel like they put you in the corner for a reason.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah, no. It was good to see you yesterday.
Yeah, you too.
I'm ashamed to admit that as much as I talked to various representatives from around the state of Tennessee, various senators, it was the first time in Cordell Hall.
Well, it's a long way from here. You know that.
Oh, yeah. It's a fur piece.
6 blocks.
Yeah, right.
Sorry about that.
My new best friend, Kenny. Do you know Kenny, the facilities manager over there?
Sure,
yeah, Kenny?
Absolutely.
Kenny is a big listener of the show. And I got a chance to see Kenny. He was probably the favorite person that I saw yesterday, outside of maybe some of the guys from Men of Valor. But Kenny showed me the tunnel. I'd never seen the tunnel. And then he showed me the tunnel that is the tunnel, right? So you see the finished. But he took me behind this. He said, "You got to see this." Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. Were you here when they did this?
No, I came right after they finished.
Right after they'd done. For those that don't know, they redid Cordell Hall because Cepicky said, "I'm not running until you redo Cordell Hall."
That's not true.
And I guess they gutted it and just completely redid it because it's a nice facility. It's worthy of our General Assembly. And they put in a tunnel between the Capitol and Cordell Hall. And they did it without destroying the road. They bore a tunnel underneath the roadway, like 80 feet beneath the road. Mm-hmm. And Kenny was showing me that. That's pretty cool.
It was done by the same machines that dug the tunnel over in England.
I know.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just
no. Well, same idea, though.
Sounded good.
I know. But he told me they dropped it in over at the Capitol and pulled it out on the other side, and there you go.
Kenny and his staff are integral to what we do up there, making sure the lights are on and everything's working where it's supposed to. And if we have a problem, they're in our office helping us out. So, Kenny, if you're listening, you're well appreciated. And your staff.
And Kenny, if you're listening, thank you for letting me do an outdoor shot on that brand new. There's a little outside area on the 8th floor looking over what a great shot. And they were doing the staining of it.
Oh, okay.
And he said, just don't step in the stain. And I'm like, I was publicly educated in Georgia, Kenny. I can't make you any promises. I don't know.
Lord.
What's going on, Cepicky? Education. Y'all are making some progress on some of these things.
We are. We had a really good week. Well, we had a really good last 2 weeks. That's why we took off. We were really busy, but I want to come back on and get everybody up to date where we are. The cell phone bill that we talked about during instructional time, banning cell phones, did pass the House. It's on to the governor's office for his signature. So look for your local school boards around the state to start to take that and run with it. Warren County and Hamlin County are bell to bell. And so you look for some school boards to get real creative with this on making sure that our kids are able to focus in the classroom.
For those who have missed it, explain specifically what this gives these districts the ability to do.
So what it does, it sets a floor that during instructional time, cell phones are prohibited in the classroom. So the kids can put them in one of those little cubby hole things or however the schools want to do it. But during instructional time, the students are not allowed to have their cell phones. Now, if you have a student that's special ed or it's part of their individual education plan, yes, then they can have access to it. Or in the event of an emergency, right, you can have access to your phone. But during the instructional time in the state of Tennessee, the minimum requirement is you cannot have your cell phone.
The benefits, I think, are obvious for this bill.
Sure.
It gets kids, but I think the residual benefit obviously you want kids to be focused on the lesson in front of them. No doubt.
True.
But I just generally want young people to have the ability to go an hour or so without looking down on their screen.
So we had testimony from the superintendent of Hamlin and Warren County, and when they did it bell to bell, they didn't talk about the classroom, Matt. You know what they talked about, what they noticed was different? Cafeteria.
Lunchroom. Yeah.
Kids were talking again.
Right.
It was so bad that the kids were talking that they had to blow the whistle to tell kids to quiet down because they were energized. They were engaged with each other. They were having conversations with each other about life, which is what we want them to do. We want them to talk to each other. And so that was a big bill, another cog, right? Another arrow in the quiver that's getting us to where we want to in education.
When you say the floor, you mean the expectation is that the school districts will implement a policy per the General Assembly that kids are not allowed access to their cell phones during instruction time.
That's right. And they go above and
however they want to do it, that's fine. And they can go above that. That's just the minimum requirement.
That's the floor.
Well, good for y'all. Was there any pushback from school districts?
No, none, zero.
Really?
Really. No, it was a bill that we were kind of weary of how they were going to fall on that. But when we had those two superintendents come in to testify, it kind of slammed the door on the debate, and that was it. I mean, that was a bipartisan bill that passed.
Speaking of I look at this cell phone bill and the recess bill as companion pieces, honestly, because I think it's looking at education more holistically and recognizing that, obviously our focus has been reading, math, arithmetic, obviously, you want to focus on the basics, but I think we lost our way in some of what schools ought to do in teaching us socialization skills and teaching us interaction and looking at that holistic approach. I think the recess bill goes a long way to do that. Where we are on it.
So that bill has passed the Senate. It's waiting to go to the Senate floor for the final vote. It is in the full education committee right now for the final vote, but we're kind of backed up a little bit. It'll probably get heard in about 2 weeks there because we got a couple bills we'll talk about a little later on immigration, but we got some big bills that are going to be debated a long time. And so we wanted to make sure that it didn't get caught up in all of the rigmarole that was going on and give it its due time. But what that does is it takes in elementary level. Now, middle school and high school are still the same 90 minutes, not 90 and 60. We're not touching that. In elementary, we're going to go from 15 minutes mandated to 40 minutes a day mandated. Mm-hmm. Recess, unstructured, get them outside and let them play. Mm-hmm. All the data out there, all these states that are going to more recess time are finding better socialization skills, less discipline problems in the classroom, better teacher satisfaction. Than what makes me really excited, Matt, better academic scores.
That's good.
And so you talked about the cell phone bill. You talk about the recess bill. I think those are two big steps to getting our classrooms to look like they used to look.
I mean, and, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but my grandpa told me, I'm sure your parents told you, get outside and burn off some energy. Go.
So you talk to school teachers across state, elementary school teachers, little boys, right, are full of energy. And sometimes they just can't focus because they're so wound up. And, you and you're doing radio for 4 hours today?
Yeah.
That's a long time to sit in that chair.
Yep.
And there's probably times that you would like to get up and just walk around. Could you imagine being 6, 7, or 8 years old and being told you got to sit there and read for 90 minutes straight?
Get a little jumpy.
Get them outside for 20 minutes in the morning. Get them outside for 20 minutes in the afternoon. And then twice a week, they get 30 minutes of PE.
Yeah.
Let's let these kids be kids and let's get them energized. And the other thing they see is the passion for education starts to grow. So two big bills, their cell phone and recess bill. Hopefully the cell phone bill is already passed. We're waiting for the recess to clear the last hurdle, and then we'll start to take back our classrooms.
Ray's very upset, and I'm going to read what Ray says on the super text line.
Okay.
We can pass a freaking cell phone bill, but can't pass a flag bill. Did the flag bill fail?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't know.
I know that's not your bill. I think it's Bolso's bill, right?
We passed it last year in the House.
I know.
The Senate had some issues with it. But as far
I don't know where we are on that.
As far as I know, it probably passed the House again. I'd be shocked if it didn't.
So Ray, if you're unaware, and maybe Ray's reflecting on last year. I don't know, but that bill is back up. We had Bolso on, Representative Gino Bolso, to talk about that bill. He felt good about its passage in the House again, and reflected to me that he felt pretty good about its passage in the Senate. Obviously, that's a different body with a different set of priorities.
So if you can ask, if Ray, you're listening to us, text in what the bill number is when we take a break. I'll look it up real quick and try to get a stats for you.
Yeah, because I think that's in progress. I think that's happening this year. So this year, I talked to Gino about it. I know that he had it, and you said that the bill was up, but then it looks like it's been pulled.
Well, it says something very odd. It says that it was put on notice for the committee, and then it says meeting canceled. Huh. I've never seen that before in the disposition of a bill. So Gino may have to text in and let us know what's going on.
Okay, so Ray, I'm working on an answer for you.
But we did pass it last year in the House.
Yeah, in the House. Well, Scott wants you to make sure y'all know that.
America.
And I'm being told the reasons why it failed in the Senate last year. And there's a lot of finger pointing at individual senators. I won't get into any of that, but one way or the other, we'll get you to the bottom line. What happened with the protest? This was obviously regarding undocumented school-age children and their ability to go to school in the state of Tennessee. Just walk us through this whole thing.
So, since the Biden administration, our budget for English language learners has quintupled, 5 times, right? Quintupled.
That would be, yeah.
In the state of Tennessee, to approaching probably close to $600-700 million. Educating these illegals that are coming into our country and showing up in our schools. These are people that are undocumented because we don't ask, right? But we kind of.
I don't think you're allowed to.
We're not, but we kind of have an idea, right? And all of a sudden we have all these people showing up.
Yeah, if you have a kid that shows up in 4th or 5th grade and they don't speak English, and it's obvious that they need English as a second language, you can kind of figure that they've not been here for very long.
Right. And so that has, like I said, it's grown 5 times the normal numbers that we've had over like decades. And so it's really taxing us really hard. And the federal government under Plyer v. Doe has said that if somebody shows up, Matt, you got to educate them no matter what it costs. The state has to foot the bill for that. And so we're pushing back on that this year. And we're saying, you know what, that is that is the definition of an unfunded mandate from the federal government, right?
That's right.
That you're going to do something because we're telling you you're going to have to do it, but then you got to pay for it. Your taxpayers have to pay for this. And we're like, enough. So we want to challenge that Supreme Court decision and give our local school systems the ability to ask for immigration status. Are you a legal citizen, or are you legally here in the United States? You could have a visa. There's a lot of different ways to be here. Mm-hmm. If you're legally here, then okay, we understand that. But if you're not legally here, then one of 2 things should have to happen. Number one, either you pay to go to school here. And I think the dollar amount was the $7,000 that they came up with from the school choice bill, the $7,000 and some change, or you're not allowed to go to public school, period. And so you can imagine that it has made some people very mad here in Tennessee. And so they've shown up, but the argument continues to be about immigration. We're not talking about immigration. We're talking about people that are here illegally in the country.
Right. So let me play a bit of devil's advocate because I hear, and I'm already getting some of it on the super text line. These children have nothing to do with the illegal alien activity or the illegal activity that their parents engaged in. What do you say to that? But the kids don't decide to come, Scott.
Well, I know that, but by being here across the border, they're here illegally. They've broken the law.
You're saying the children, a 1-year-old child broke the law?
Well, wouldn't they be held accountable to the same as an adult that comes across the border illegally?
Well, I mean,
on immigration status, right?
I would recommend to you that if a 2-year-old baby is in a car, not in a car seat, that child is not breaking the law. The adult is breaking the law. I'm just
okay.
So I'm saying, there is a dynamic involved that, these are kind of the victims of the parents' illegal activity. I'm not saying that it's not illegal activity. Obviously it is. But your concern is the amount of money that it's costing the state of Tennessee as a result of the federal government's mandate.
Yeah, but remember, we're not educating in our public schools babies. We're educating 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, all the way up through high school.
Right.
And so that's a different kind of dynamic. Those individuals could be deemed cognitively aware of that they're here not legally.
And so the idea behind the bill, and obviously the creation of this is intentionally designed to get it to the court system.
That's correct.
And everybody's aware of that.
Right. It's going to be enjoined right away. And then our attorney general is going to take it over, and they're going to appeal it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they're going to argue basically probably 10th Amendment, right? Hey, if you're going to tell us we have to do something, you got to fund it.
You got to fund, right.
You got to fund it. If you're not going to fund it, then we should at least have the ability to set policy on what we're going to do.
Right. In other words, and tell me if I'm hearing you correctly, if the federal government is going to be loosey-goosey with who gets here, and then you tell us that we're not allowed to check,
right,
then you got to give us some money to pay for all of this because we're feeling the burden of it.
Because our taxpayers here are having to foot the bill for more English language learner teachers, classrooms that are now being disrupted even more now because it says by federal law you have to put them in the least intrusive environment, which means I got to have these kids that don't speak any English in the normal classroom, and it gets disruptive to the whole classroom.
Well, and that's another issue that I have with all of the illegal alien activity that's come across the southern border, particularly fairly recently, that you're introducing so many students in a classroom that don't have the ability to understand English that you're holding back the English language students.
Well, you're holding back the classroom.
I mean, right. I mean, I can't advance our mathematics lessons if half the class can't understand English and can't understand what I'm saying about mathematics, right?
And that's why we're challenging it as Tennessee, is because we see how it's affecting us here. Could you imagine what Texas, Arizona, New Mexico look like? Their cost to their school systems?
California.
California? I mean, we've got to get a handle on this. And maybe this will be another help to the federal government, to Tom Holman, to help clean this mess up that the Biden administration's created. But if the federal government's going to hang their hat on this, on this Plier v. Doe, then you got to start sending us the money to pay for this, because it's really putting a stress on our school system.
And final thought on this, and I know we've got to get to news, but I mean, how do you respond to those that say, well, the kids haven't done anything wrong? I mean, I've kind of alluded to it. I mean, I'm sensitive to those young people. I mean, I'm sorry for them, but I'm not the one that broke the law.
Well, if you look at the people who were protesting, most of these are high school kids who came to show up to protest. They're aware of the whole situation. They're aware of the argument. Now, you said a baby that comes across the boat in her mother's arms. I get it, right? The mother still broke the law. And that child should go where the mother goes. Well, if the mother's deported back across the border, obviously the baby goes with her. But when you start talking about, you've got high school kids that have walked across the border with their families, obviously looking for a better life. Okay, we have to have help there. And the only way we're going to get help is you have to challenge that Plier v. Doe on its constitutionality.
And you believe, as they say, the juice is worth the squeeze with regard to the money that it'll cost us to get it to the Supreme Court?
Well, yeah, I think so. And if we win, it changes dynamic across the country. Put your name on a ballot, big boy.
I was just hoping that you'd be my man.
Hey, you could do your radio show live from the General Assembly.
That would be something else.
Yeah, that would be something else.
I'm not giving up this lavish lifestyle to go down there and,
We work for a lot less than you do.
Well,
a lot less.
I mean, that's probably as little as I make true. Yes.
I mean, your taxes are probably what I make.
But my taxes in the state of Tennessee, taxes are good in the state of Tennessee. Let's get back to,
there are two more real quick.
All right, let's go.
So two more. One is, remember during the third grade retention, we had a lot of parents that were confused that their kids were going to be retained because they're failing courses, but they were told they were on grade level reading. So we're trying to solve that with information. How about that? On report cards, this bill's in full education. Going forward, if we pass this bill, when you get a report card as a parent, it'll have the grades of your student plus their universal screening for reading to see how they're reading also on there, the report, and the dyslexia screener. So you'll know all the information about your student, but you'll get it with one document. So you only got to look for the report card and that's it. So that's more of an efficiency thing for people to be informed. And then the big one we also passed, we do have a problem with a lot of our school boards in the state of Tennessee. Now, our county commissions have already adopted this mostly, to where at the end of a meeting, a county commission will have an open comment section that a citizen can come up and make a comment about, hey, I'm concerned about this or that. And then you can take it under advisement and get back to them next month with an answer, or someone can answer the question real time. It's usually about 15 minutes, 3 minutes max per person, right?
Yeah. And you sign up before the meeting and then
School boards don't have that. School boards have where you have to have an agenda item only to speak on in public comment. We're changing that law to say all boards have to have a public comment section in general so that public can come up and make a comment on anything, but it has to be germane to what that board does. So you wouldn't go to the county commission and complain about the school board, and you wouldn't go to the school board and complain about the county commission. So as long as you're going to the school boards and you're asking about school issues.
Yeah, you're not talking about the garbage dump.
There you go.
Or whatever.
Or the trash panda thing.
Right. Very, very important piece of legislation, but more on that in a moment.
Definitely not.
So that makes sense. So the idea being that you just set aside 15 minutes, probably toward the end of the meeting after you've done the agenda-based items, and people can sign up before the meeting, and they have a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it might be,
based off how many people you have to sign up.
Right, and they get they're allowed to address issues, and a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes. The public can bring up issues that school boards might not have been aware of.
Well, people do it to me all the time when I'm at Kroger or something like that shopping. They'll come up and say, "Hey, did you know this in the district?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. Thank you." And I'll pick up the phone and call the appropriate department, and they'll go over and get it rectified.
Well, let me just bring something up to you.
Where do you live?
I live in Wilson County.
So you need to talk to your representative in Wilson County.
You're such a jerk. I don't know why I let you on. No, this is we want to make it legal to own a vaccinated raccoon in the state of Tennessee.
Okay, well, that would go through agriculture. And so you want to talk to Representative Todd or Representative Todd?
I talked to Todd yesterday. So you think my new bestie will help me out? I didn't talk to him about this. I forgot to.
Well, see, that's on you.
Well,
you had your shot.
I'll have him on. He said he'd come over.
You had the entourage following you, and you had the leverage.
I had one guy with a camera following me.
Well, the camera's a lot of leverage.
Oh, maybe so.
And you lost it. The last thing we're working on real quick is we know Linda McMahon, Commissioner or the Secretary of Education, and Donald Trump has made it perfectly clear that they want to start this dismantling of the Federal Department of Education.
Bring it back home.
So what we're doing right now is we're having conversations with the departments. We're having conversations with the chairman of education and the speakers, trying to figure out, hey, from the 30,000 foot level, what's that starting to look like for us here in Tennessee, right? How's that going to work? We're going to have obviously some type of board that's going to oversee everything to make sure it's flowing properly between the elementary and just making sure everything works, right? Mm-hmm. The food the food comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You know, the free and reduced lunch.
Right.
So that's from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That's separate from the Department of Education. But the policies and things that we do, your email is probably going to start to blow up here about what about special ed? Well, special ed is federal law. So those students are handled differently, and we would still be abiding by federal law when it comes to IDEA or special ed or IEPs. That's all law we got to abide by. But giving us a little bit more flexibility on the day-to-day operations of how we do things and how we schedule things, I think could be a real deal changer for education. So that's what's going on so far. 47 bills in Education Committee next week. We've got 67 in final considerations in the subcommittee. So we're hoping for middle of April. All
right, I might have an answer on the flag. No, Gino says it is off the calendar for right now, and he did indicate that it was bumped because of the snow.
The snow, okay.
So his direct answer to Ray and to anybody else on the flag bill. This is legislation that would prevent unrelated flags from being allowed in public school places like school, teachers' rooms and whatnot.
You'd be able to have, I think it's the U.S., the Tennessee, and our military flags.
Yeah, POW flags. Right. And then it carves out some exceptions for school alliance or allegiances, local municipalities, flags that make sense regarding the
Murray
local
County flag, stuff like that, Columbia City flag, stuff like that.
Right. So he says it's off calendar for now, but it will be back.
Well, I'll be a yes vote, so.
Oh, well, amen.
So, Gino, if you're listening, yes vote.
Yes vote. No candy, no soft drinks to be purchased with SNAP. I mean, it feels like a no-brainer.
Sounds like a Robert Kennedy type of bill.
Yeah?
Oh, when we talk about the thing we're working on.
Yeah, do that real quick.
So one of the things we're working on, you hear about the no sales tax on groceries. Well, we've been having discussions about that, what if we incentivize people to eat healthier by removing the sales tax on the outside of the grocery store, your fresh meats, your fresh produce, your fresh dairy, cheeses, things like that, eggs, things that are fresh.
Beer. Just keep going. Just keep going. I did that for the look on your face.
Can't believe you said that.
What? I mean, beer's on the outside, right?
Beer's on the out, but that's okay. But try to incentivize people through, no grocery tax on those items. And what you do is you roll it out for maybe five months. And then the next year you add a month or two to it, make sure you don't hurt the revenue too bad so you can continue to operate. And then after eventually you do without the money a little bit at a time, and it's easier to do it.
Okay, so, I mean, in all seriousness, the idea being to, you mentioned meats, milk, produce, dairy.
Vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, and you could say the outside of the grocery store, and that's a good mental image, right? Those, maybe, fresh bread. I mean, well, I don't know if you do.
If you're walking up and down the aisle, just normally processed food.
Right, canned stuff or whatever.
And so if you're dealing around the outside, when you walk
in. Beer.
When you walk into a supermarket or Kroger, the first thing you come to is normally the vegetables, and then it's the meat counters, and then the seafood counters.
Right.
And you're just working your way around the outside. And so incentivize people to eat healthier, which helps us out in the long run, right?
I mean, how much have y'all gotten to the point where you put pen to paper and figured out the math on it? Like, how much revenue are we talking about?
I could guess at it, but I'd probably be dangerous, and I'll probably be too low. But I think when we did the 3-month sales tax, it was something like $400 or $500 million.
Okay.
So it's a lot of money.
Be up there.
It's a lot of money.
But I mean, the idea being, and this is, listen, guys, I'll be as critical as I need to be about this General Assembly. But one of the reasons I like living in the state of Tennessee is that, generally speaking, these guys, they don't just keep the money if they collect too much of it. The idea being, if you're collecting more than you need, well, let's figure out ways to get that back to the people.
Right, and that's what we do. We do all kinds of grants for our parks and recreation, trying to get the money back as best we can. I think we're building 3 new parks in the state of Tennessee.
Speaking about parks, how many raccoons are in our local? See, nothing. You're so serious. We've done the serious stuff. We can talk about the raccoon bill.
I'll bring you a bill next time.
This is a freedom bill.
I'll bring you next bill.
This is a freedom bill. Why should I thought y'all were less government.
You're stammering.
I thought you were less government over there.
I am less government.
Well, then stop preventing me from owning a raccoon.
You can own a raccoon if you want. Go ahead.
It's illegal.
Well,
I got to go through all this licensing with the state. It's nonsense.
So when you get bit by a raccoon, you're going to come to the hospital and want to be treated.
Raccoons can be vaccinated.
I'm not worried about the raccoon. I'm worried about you.
Well, that's fine. I'll take responsibility for it.
If you want to vaccinate your raccoon, go ahead.
That's on.
You can vaccinate your raccoon all you want.
There's a sentence I never thought would be said to me. If you want to vaccine your raccoon, it's up to you.
So,
thank you for all the hard work.
Pleasure.
I love that. You have been referred to on the super text line, and I think this is said in love, that you are our education dork, and we love it. I know. You are all in on it, and we need that.
And then before I go, real quick, we did establish the Israel-Tennessee Caucus.
Yes.
We had the Consulate General come up and kick that off on Monday, so we'll be working on
good for you
education. We'll be working on technology, medical, agriculture, trying to partner with our colleagues over in Israel and see if we can make Tennessee, and for that, bring a little to Tennessee to Israel too.
Nice. Representative Scott Cepicky, always a pleasure.
Thank you.